My stepsister bullied me for years. Now she sued me for my house because she needs it more. But the judge said something that left her destroyed, and she'll never forget. I'm 25 years old, work in digital marketing for the past 3 years, and honestly, I need to tell this story because I still can't believe it went as far as it did. I mean, we literally ended up in court over this. The thing is, my stepsister Melissa, who's 26, basically made my life impossible for years, treated me like garbage my entire childhood, and then had the audacity to demand that I give her my house, the house I bought with my own money, because she needed it more than me. And when I say demand, I'm not exaggerating. It got to the point where she legally sued me. Can you believe that? But let me start from the beginning, because all of this makes a lot more sense when you understand the full story. When I was 7 years old, my mom married Melissa's dad. I was super excited, honestly, because I was an only child and had always wanted an older sister, and Melissa was 8 at the time, so I thought we were going to be like best friends, share clothes, tell each other, secrets, all those things you see in movies. But turns out Melissa was not at all happy about this new situation. From day one, she made it crystal clear that I wasn't her sister, that I never would be, and that basically my existence was ruining her life. I'm not exaggerating one bit. Those were literally her words when my mom told us we were going to be a family. I remember it perfectly because I was wearing a pink Barbie t-shirt and was trying to show her my new room, thinking maybe we could decorate it together or something, and she looked at me with so much hate and said, "I don't want anything to do with you. You're not my sister, and you never will be." And she went and locked herself in her room. The next few years were basically hell. Melissa bullied me constantly, hid my things, told her friends at school that I was a loser and not to talk to me, pushed me when nobody was looking, and if I tried to complain to my mom or her dad, she always found a way to play the victim. She'd say things like, "She's just jealous because her mom married my dad," or, "I didn't do anything. She just wants attention." And the worst part is sometimes it worked, because adults always want to believe that conflicts between siblings are normal, Like they assume it's part of the adjustment process or something. My stepdad at first did try to defend me. Honestly, I remember a couple times he told Melissa she had to treat me better, but she just wouldn't listen, or she'd go crying to her biological mom, who lived like 20 minutes from us, and make a whole drama out of it. When Melissa was about 13, she decided she wanted to go live with her biological mom full-time. Honestly, it was a huge relief for me. Like I could finally breathe in my own house without constantly worrying that she was going to do something to me or embarrass me in front of someone. By then, my mom and her dad had already had 2 kids together, my half-siblings, and the house was much more peaceful without Melissa there all the time. She'd come some weekends at first, but basically completely ignored me, like I was invisible. And honestly, that seemed perfect to me. We weren't family to her, we never were, and I had accepted that a long time ago. Things got complicated when Melissa got pregnant at 16. Her mom kicked her out of the house. I mean, literally told her that if she was going to have a baby, she had to figure it out on her own, so she had no choice but to come back to my mom and her dad's house. I was 15 at the time, and honestly, I felt bad for her, because yeah, she'd been horrible to me, but pregnant at 16 is tough for anyone, right? I thought maybe this was going to change things between us, that maybe now that she needed support we could at least be civil with each other. But no, not at all. When the baby was born, a beautiful little girl, I tried to reach out, like offer to help with whatever, and Melissa literally screamed at me not to come near her daughter, that she didn't want me around her, that she didn't trust me. I remember my mom was there and told her, "Melissa, please. Lily just wants to help." And she responded, "I don't care. This isn't her niece. I'm not her sister, and I don't want her to have anything to do with my baby." That hurt. I'm not going to lie, because I genuinely wanted to meet the baby and help. But well, message received. Melissa lived in the house for like 6 more months after the baby was born, and during all that time she basically treated me like I was a stranger living in her house. She never talked to me directly. If she needed something, she'd ask my mom to tell me, and if I walked into a room where she was, she'd leave. It was super awkward, but I was used to it by then, I guess. Eventually, she got a job at a clothing store in the mall and rented a small apartment, moved out with her daughter, and basically I didn't see her again for years. And it's not like I was looking for her either. Why would I? She had made it very clear she didn't want anything to do with me, and I had my own life, my own friends, my own plans. I graduated high school, went to college, nothing fancy, a state university where I got some scholarships, studied marketing, and got a decent job as soon as I graduated. I wasn't making a fortune, but it was enough to start saving. I lived with my mom and stepdad for the first 2 years while working, saving every penny I could because my goal was to buy my own house. I know it sounds ambitious for someone my age, but I've always been super disciplined with money. I don't know. I guess growing up watching my mom struggle financially before she got married taught me to be careful. So when I was 23, I found this small house, like 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, nothing special, but it was in good condition and the price was reasonable. My grandparents helped me with part of the down payment, like $5,000, which I know is a lot. Got the mortgage. It was literally one of the happiest days of my life when I signed the papers and that house became mine. While all this was happening in my life, Melissa kept doing her thing. She'd gotten together with several different guys over the years and had 3 more kids. So by the time I bought my house, she already had 4 children, all with different fathers, and none of those guys were really in the picture. My mom kept me updated sometimes, like she'd say things like, "Melissa is struggling a lot," or, "I wish I could help her more." But I honestly didn't ask much. I know it sounds cold, but after everything that had happened, I just didn't feel any connection to her. To me, she was basically a stranger who shared a last name with my stepdad. All this was kind of the status quo until about a year ago. Melissa lost her job. I'm not sure exactly what she was doing at that point, but I think it was at a call center or something. And shortly after, she couldn't pay rent on her house and got evicted. My mom called me one day, super stressed, and told me the whole situation. Melissa and the 4 kids, who at that point were like 9, 7, 5, and 3 years old, had nowhere to stay. My mom and stepdad told them they could come back to their house temporarily while Melissa looked for work and saved money for another place. But my parents' house is relatively small. They have 3 bedrooms, but one my stepdad uses as an office because he works from home. So with my 2 half-siblings still living there, they're like 14 and 12 now, plus Melissa and 4 more kids, the house was absolutely packed. My mom said it was chaotic, that they didn't fit, that the kids were sleeping on the living room floor, and that Melissa was super stressed and in a bad mood all the time. About 3 weeks after Melissa had moved in with my parents, my mom called me. I knew something was up because normally she'd text me, not call. So when I saw her name on the screen like at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, I knew it was going to be something. I answered, and she started with this whole super long intro about how difficult the situation was, how the kids needed stability, how Melissa was really making an effort to look for work, but it was hard to find something that paid enough to support 4 kids. I was listening, thinking, okay, where is this going? And finally, she got to the point. She asked me if Melissa and the kids could stay with me for a few months. I literally went silent for like 10 seconds because I couldn't believe she was asking me that. Like, seriously? After everything Melissa had done to me? After years of treating me like garbage, of telling me I wasn't her family, of not even letting me meet her kids? And now I'm supposed to open the doors of my house, the house I bought with my money, for her and her 4 kids. I told my mom, "I'm sorry, but no, I just can't do that." My mom started trying to convince me, saying things like, "I know Melissa wasn't kind to you in the past, but she's matured. She has 4 kids to support. She needs help from her family." And I told her, "Mom, she literally told me for years that I was not her family. Remember that? She never considered me her sister, never treated me with even the minimum respect. And now I'm supposed to let her move into my house because she needs a place to stay? It doesn't make sense." My mom got emotional, saying the kids were innocent in all this, that they needed a stable roof. And I told her I understood, that I felt bad for the kids, but that wasn't my responsibility. I have my own life, my own space. And honestly, after everything I went through with Melissa, I didn't want to have her in my house. Period. The conversation ended super awkward, with my mom clearly disappointed in me, and me feeling bad but also firm in my decision. I thought that was going to be the end of the story, that Melissa would find another solution and that would be it. But oh no, things were just getting started. Like 2 days later, I get a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered, and it was Melissa. We hadn't spoken directly in literally years. Like, I couldn't even tell you the last time we had a real conversation. and she goes straight to the point. Doesn't even say hello. Just, I heard you told Mom we can't stay with you. I told her, yes, that's correct. And she starts screaming at me. Like really screaming. Saying I was selfish, that I had a house with extra bedrooms, and she had 4 kids without a place to live. How could I be so cruel? I reminded her, as calmly as I could, even though I was shaking with anger, that she had treated me like garbage my whole life, that she'd told me 1,000 times I wasn't her sister, that she didn't even let me meet her first baby, and that frankly I didn't owe her anything. That made her even angrier. She told me I was immature, that I was clinging to the past, that she'd been just a kid when all that happened and I needed to get over it, and this is what really shocked me. She told me that I should temporarily move back with our parents and let her use my house with her kids. Like, what? I told her, are you kidding? This is my house. Melissa, I bought it. I pay the mortgage. Why the hell would I move out so you can live here? And she responded, because I need it more than you. You don't have kids. It's just you alone. You could live anywhere. But I need the space for my kids. The logic was absolutely insane. I told her that was never going to happen and hung up the phone. I thought that would be enough, that she'd finally get the message. But a week later, it was Saturday, like at 11 inches the morning. I'm at my house in pajamas watching Netflix, and I hear a knock at the door. I go to open it, and there's Melissa with her 4 kids and like 6 suitcases piled up at my entrance. The kids looked confused and tired. The youngest was crying. Melissa looks at me and says, well, here we are. Are you going to let us in or what? I stood there with the door half open, completely in shock, and told her, Melissa, what are you doing? Why did you bring the kids here? And she says, well, obviously we can't keep staying at Mom and Dad's house. It's too crowded. So I decided it's better to come directly here. Now open the door so we can bring our stuff in. I couldn't believe the audacity. Seriously. I told her, Melissa, I already told you no. You can't stay here. This is my house and I didn't invite you. She starts getting hysterical in front of the kids, screaming that I'm a monster. How can I leave my nephews on the street? That she has no other options. The kids started crying and I felt horrible for them. I really did. But I also knew that if I let them in, they were never going to leave. I told her as calmly as I could, Melissa, I'm very sorry about your situation. Seriously. But you can't stay here. You need to find another solution. She tried to push the door to come in and I had to basically hold it with my body, telling her she had to leave. Finally, after like 10 minutes of this drama at my door, with the neighbors probably watching, she grabbed the suitcases, told the kids to hate me because I was leaving them homeless, and they left. I was shaking after I closed the door. I felt horrible, guilty, angry, confused, all at the same time. I called my mom crying, telling her what had happened, and she told me Melissa hadn't told her she was going to go to my house, that she thought Melissa had accepted it wasn't an option. I asked her what was going to happen now, and my mom said Melissa came back to her house, that they were going to have to make it work somehow. I felt bad for putting my parents in that position, but also what was I supposed to do? Let someone who treated me like garbage for years move into my house just because now she needed me? And the next few days were relatively quiet. I thought maybe finally everything had calmed down. But then I started getting messages from relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, people I hadn't heard from in months or years, all telling me essentially the same thing, that I was selfish, that Melissa needed help. How could I turn my back on family? Clearly, Melissa had been calling everyone, telling them her version of the story, painting me as the villain who had a big empty house. It's not big. It has 2 bedrooms, and was refusing to help my poor homeless nephews. I didn't bother explaining the full story to most of these people. I just didn't respond or said it was a complicated situation and there was more context than they knew. Like 2 weeks after that, something arrived by certified mail. It was a legal document. Melissa was suing me. Literally. Suing. The document was super long and full of legal language I barely understood, but the gist was that she was arguing that as sisters, and specifically because I had resources, a house with extra bedrooms, and she was in a crisis situation with minor children, I had a legal, family obligation to provide her temporary housing. It also mentioned something about emergency housing laws for families with children and how I was basically violating some kind of family responsibility. It was absolutely ridiculous, but also terrifying because it was a real legal document, with a court date and everything. I panicked, obviously. I called my mom and she was in shock too, said she didn't know Melissa was going to do this. My stepdad got on the phone and he sounded tired, like defeated, and told me Melissa had been obsessed with the idea that I had to help her, that she wouldn't stop talking about it. I asked him if he thought I was wrong, and he paused for a long time and then said, "Lily, I think Melissa is desperate and is making bad decisions. But no, I don't think you have an obligation to give her your house." That made me feel a little better. At least someone in my family understood my position. I hired a lawyer, or rather, I went to a free consultation first, because I didn't have a lot of extra money for legal fees. The lawyer, an older guy who seemed like he'd seen everything, read the documents and basically laughed. He told me it was one of the most ridiculous cases he'd seen, that there was no law that obligated an adult sibling to provide housing to another adult sibling, that the lawsuit had no legal merit, and that the judge would probably dismiss it immediately. I felt relieved but also worried because we still had to go to court. I still had to go through this whole process, and my relationship with my family was completely destroyed because of this. The day of the hearing came about a month later. It was in a small county courthouse, nothing dramatic like you see in movies. Melissa arrived with my mom and stepdad, and I arrived alone with my lawyer. Melissa glared at me when I walked in, and my mom looked super uncomfortable, like she didn't want to be there but felt she had to support Melissa. The judge was an older woman, very serious, and when she started reading the case, you could see on her face that she was confused. She asked Melissa, or rather the lawyer, she'd gotten apparently from some low-cost legal service, to explain the legal basis of the lawsuit. Melissa's lawyer did his best, arguing about family responsibility and housing crisis and the welfare of the children, but even while he was talking, you could see he knew it was a lost cause. The judge interrupted him like halfway through his explanation and basically said there was no legal precedent or any law that supported what they were asking for. That she understood it was a difficult family situation, but that didn't make it a legal matter, and that the lawsuit was dismissed. It literally took like 10 minutes. Melissa started crying and saying it wasn't fair, that her kids had nowhere to live, and the judge told her, very firmly, that her housing situation was not her stepsister's responsibility and that she needed to look for appropriate resources like family shelters or county housing assistance. We left the courthouse and Melissa yelled at me in the hallway, in front of a bunch of people, that I had destroyed her life, that her kids were going to suffer because of me, that I was the worst person she'd ever met. I didn't say anything, just left with my lawyer. My mom sent me a message later that day saying she was sorry about how things turned out, but she didn't apologize for supporting Melissa in this, which hurt. My stepdad called me that night and told me he was proud that I'd stood my ground, that he knew it hadn't been easy, and that he was going to keep telling Melissa to look for other options. That was like 3 months ago. Melissa finally got a place in a subsidized housing program for families, like a small apartment, but at least it's something stable. The kids are fine, according to my mom. They go to school and have a roof. Melissa hasn't contacted me since court, which honestly is a relief. A relationship with my mom is super tense now. We talk like once a week, but it's superficial. Neither of us mentions Melissa or everything that happened. With my stepdad, I talk more. He seems to understand my perspective better. Last week, my younger half-brother, the one who's 12, sent me a message asking if I hated Melissa. I told him no, that I didn't hate her, that we just had a complicated history and that sometimes families don't work the way everyone wishes they would. He asked me if we were ever going to be a normal family again, and honestly, I didn't know what to tell him. I said I didn't know, that maybe with time things would get better, but that for now everyone needed space. I don't know if that was the right answer, but it was the most honest one I could give him. I still feel guilty sometimes, like when I'm alone in my house and I think about those 4 kids and everything they've been through. But then I remind myself that I didn't cause Melissa's situation, that her decisions led her to where she is, and that I had no obligation to sacrifice my own stability and peace of mind to rescue her, especially after how she treated me for years. I don't know if that makes me selfish or just makes me someone with healthy boundaries. I guess it depends on who you ask. My therapist, yeah, I started going to therapy after all this, says I did the right thing. that setting boundaries isn't selfishness, and that I can't set myself on fire to keep someone else warm. That phrase stuck with me. So here I am, in my little house that cost me so much to get, trying to rebuild my relationship with my family and process all of this. People at my work don't even know any of this happened. I'm still the same Lily there, smiling and doing marketing presentations like nothing happened. Sometimes I think about what it would be like if I'd said yes. If I'd let Melissa and the kids stay, they'd probably still be here. My house would probably be chaos, and I'd probably be completely miserable. So yeah, I made the right decision, I think. Or at least, I made the decision I could live with. And for now, that has to be enough.